So recently, I have received an email from Rail, who received an email with written letters attached from Diana Ramirez, detailing her experiences at the Kamba Women's Shelter in Park Slope. Here is her story. The amount of times the cops show up to this place is unmatched. The community continues to donate to this very hostile facility, yet nothing has changed. The women are always lying in the halls, and staff has not yet provided the property with custodian services by any means. Furthermore, there is concern with men and women being kept in the same facility. This is supposed to be an all-women shelter. There are very young women here as well as in their mid-20s, while there is alleged sex trafficking taking place, and the files of proof have not been reloaded to TV news upon request. Now, I decided to do my own research and background checks. I found some rather disturbing truths surrounding Kamba's Park Slope Women's Shelter. To start off, I will introduce you to Kamba, founded in 1977. It is a Brooklyn-based quote-unquote nonprofit organization providing social services to New Yorkers in need. Kamba took over operations at the homeless shelter inside the Armory on 8th Avenue between 15th and 14th Streets in 1996 and has run it ever since. Park Slope's Women's Shelter is a 100-bed shelter for mental ill and substance abusing women. It is also a historic National Guard armory reminiscent of military structures from medieval times in Europe. The building was built for the 14th Regiment of the New York State Militia. After scrolling the web for a bit, I found some online forums with complaints from residents of the shelter and in neighboring communities. Let's read a few of the complaints. My stay is not good. Too much fighting and ghetto-ass behavior. I enjoyed it there. They helped me more than anyone else has. Terrible. If you have somewhere else to go, this shelter has no control of the mentally ill living here. I am a current resident. I cannot wait to get my own place and get as far away from the shelter in New York City. I've been through 4 or 5 months. It's hard staying here. If you have to go to a shelter, make sure you have support, because I didn't have any. I have been here for almost a week now and have yet to see any staff. The food is disgusting. The lockers are flimsy and are not secure. Someone asked about safety at the shelter, and the reply was, well, if you stay to yourself and don't talk to anyone, then yes, it can be safe. Lock your locker tight, and if at all possible, take anything of value with you when you leave, including your shoes, because they will take anything of value. And here is a complaint from a community resident. The residents are sitting on the steps of my building, 1419 8th Avenue, and are eating and drinking and smoking and leaving their trash on the steps. They also block the way when residents of the building are entering and exiting, as well as making noise at all hours. Is there a reason they are allowed to loiter on the steps of my building where there's an outdoor area them for sit and congregate in? Question mark. Park Slope neighborhood is one of the largest in the district and contains more than half of the residential population. Park Slope has been known to be an activist community. As in Cobble Hill, many efforts have been made to preserve the integrity of the historic backgrounds of the neighborhood, including lobbying the city to preserve and restore its characteristic blue stone sidewalks. Environmental concerns continue to grow as commercial companies use the streets as dumping grounds. As former Mayor de Blasio stated, Kamba's Women's Shelter on 14th Street and 8th Avenue is a short trip away from an unpopular public facility, a waste transfer station that will soon receive at least 1,600 tons of garbage a day. And might I mention, pollutants continue to destroy our environment and affect the minds of those living in it. It is a fact, not opinion, that pollutants damage children's cognitive abilities and increase adults' risk of cognitive decline and possibly even contribute to depression. A perceived uptick and unruly behavior of women in Park Slope shelter has led residents from neighboring communities to meet up. They were joined by officers of the local NYPD precincts, elected officials, and representatives from CAMBA, the quote-unquote nonprofit organization that operates the shelter. Barbara Barron, a resident on 16th Street, who led the meeting, stated that the residents of the shelter have been very good neighbors since it opened more than 20 years ago. But lately something's changed, and that's the reason we wanted to have all of you come. What we've noticed is lately the residents are sitting on our stoops, they're smoking marijuana, they're using the streets as their bathroom, they're asking for money, they're harassing the business people on Prospect Park West. Now take that in and let's have a brief informational session. Majority of these non-profit organizations are pocketing funds for themselves and not implementing the things they promise to implement. This conclusion is based on the fact that conditions have been the same for decades. So where exactly is the money going if there are no real, tangible, or even remotely noticeable changes? Begging for money is an outward expression of an internal suicide caused by external circumstances. So the first things these residents of the neighborhood communities should be asking themselves is, what is going on at these shelters that its residents are feeling so helpless in a place that claims to help them? Meet Nubosi from Lagos, Nigeria. She is a woman with a bachelor's degree from Pace University who was a caseworker for almost 30 years. She was fired from her job 2 years ago. Now she stays at Park Slope Women's Shelter. There has been an obvious increase in homelessness in New York City, especially with gentrification taking place. People are being pushed out of their neighborhoods they've lived in for years with no respect and no regard. No one cares enough to speak up on this injustice. In fact, there's an ongoing project in affiliation with CAMBA that plans to renovate the women's shelter into housing for future community residents who meet the income requirements. With all of this information, think, what can I do and how can I use my voice and freedom of speech to make this world a just place for all?